Hey there, Max. Hope you had a great weekend. Just getting in the office Monday morning, and I was going through my email and found a couple from you, so I figured I'd answer your questions for you and clarify some points. So cool. Looked at your first message, and it looked like there was like something. We got turned around a little bit with which key we were in, so I'll go ahead and straighten that one out. So I had a chance to review the video you sent over, going over all your cage chords in the key of D, or using all the D chords. I think you did here. You did your first one, and then we'll turn the volume up later. And then you have C form, right? And then D, or say A form, and then everyone's favorite G form. Now I know G form isn't the easiest. Is by far the hardest one to fret all at the same time. But remember that it is just for you to see like where everything is and how it relates to pentatonics. So it's not like you have to sit there and like strum like this chord, even though I think it's good to like be able to throw that down, right? What I'll talk about in the next video is some bar chord strengthening drills that I have, some first finger extension exercises that you can do to help get that first finger stronger, but I'll just stick to kind of the points together, otherwise I'll go off on some tangent and then like 45 minutes will pass. So just remember that the G form D chord, right? Oops, I'm doing that. It is just to know where everything is, and it's just to go, okay, these are all like the landmarks in here. So like if you end up playing it like in pieces, like on the meridian, like I talked about last time, versus, right, those are still very useful shapes. So it's like, it's super useful, just not as like a big bulky shape. Like I said in the video, like I can count on like one hand how many times I've seen like an actual rock player actually do this in a rock song. Without getting into like classical world or jazz world or things like that. Now they do offshoots of them. So like, do I see partials? Absolutely, all the time. Actually, it's one of the most used. So it's kind of like there's an extreme. Like there's like using parts of it are extremely common, right? Like, you know, that's like Rolling Stones made a career off of that maneuver right there. So did Queen. Brian May does that all the time. So it's that little partial shape I see all the time. So anyway, so it looks like you got all those down. Now the next thing to think about is there are two things to think about. One is declarative and one is procedural. And declarative is like info and data, right? Like it's like knowing something is there. You know, I've been doing this a long time, but I've only been on this earth for so long. So like I know things in my theory books over there that I know they exist, and I know there's cool things hidden inside of them. I just haven't been on this earth long enough to get to those yet, right? Even though I haven't spent the last quarter century studying this thing seriously, there are things that I haven't gotten to yet to study, to incorporate in my playing, just because I haven't had the time, right? Now that's pretty far along, but there's something called procedural, where it's kind of like the riding the bike part kind of thing. Like you can't explain to someone how to ride a bike by going, okay, now lift your leg up this much degrees and then like put this much effort down, like 45% of your effort. And it doesn't work that way, right? Procedural is like, get on the bike and you're gonna fall. And declarative is like, okay, if we came up with like a treatise on like how to play guitar, the Cage book, that is, for me, that is declarative information. That is declarative practice. That is going, these things exist. This is how you play them on the guitar. And procedural is like taking that data and that ability to play the chords, right, which is also important too. Taking that information and going, I'm going to use it for something. I'm going to be able to be creative with it. And the first thing, you've already kind of done the first thing in that level, which is be able to identify where they are, right? Know where they are, be able to switch between them relatively quickly, right? Don't sit around and lollygag and go, okay, where's this next chord shape? You already know that. Like I watched in the video, you were able to do that pretty quickly. Next thing is the experimentation phase of the project, which is taking a song that uses this information and in a practice way, boots on the ground, you're actually using it, not going, I know it. Because I used to fall in that trap, which was like, I know it, and that's just good enough for me, right? It was like, okay, you know, if you give me a jazz chart, yeah, I can tell you, when I was younger, you could hand me a jazz chart, like all the things you are, I'll tell you how to play all the chords, I'll tell you where they are on the fretboard, but I was always kind of lazy and like, okay, now you need to spend hours doing that, right? So I spend the hours in the textbook and my nose buried in the book, but then I didn't spend the hours, hands on the guitar, playing this stuff and getting patterns under my fingers. That wasn't until later till a teacher yelled at me about such things, and then I got my act together. So that's where you want to be with the caged chords in the key of D. Is now that you know the shapes and you know what to do, now is time to use them for something. And then the best situations I find for getting these things accustomed to my fingers, first off, is like a 1-chord jam. So 2 things. 1-chord jam is if I just threw on, let me find one here. So I did like a D major backing track. And I just did, you know, just practicing with the drone, a D chord vamp. Oh, it does. So D major chord vamp. D chord, you get to watch me type. Vamp. No, done D minor, D major, come on. Major chord vamp. There it is. I don't know how good this is. I'm going to turn it on. You might have already done that. What I'm doing though is I'm just taking those cage chords and just like in a song, can I switch between them smoothly? Oops, Monday morning. Right? Can I do that with a 1-chord vamp backing track? But I would suspect though that you can kind of already do that a little bit without having you in the room and kind of just road testing that. So then the next thing that I would do is if that step's all good, I'll give you this one too, just in case for whatever reason you just have a chance to show me. I pick a song that is 2 chords. That's all we're gonna do. So we're gonna do a 2-chord jam song. And the song that is really good to use with the D chord cage is Cortez the Killer by Neil Young. It is a 10-minute long song. 10 minutes as a lot of his songs gonna go. There'll be an extended jam probably in the middle of the song. But the song really is just this. It's just an E minor chord and a D chord. And what I'm gonna do is this. First thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna practice going from E minor to all the different versions of D that I know. Easy peasy, right? First one's not that bad. It's one that I can do. I put the backtrack on. I'll send this over to you. Oh wait, I didn't say A minor. E minor, D, A minor, twice. Sorry about that. I got email from someone else. Watch this. Oops. Sorry. We're gonna do the minor cage pretty soon, so don't worry, we're gonna be down here the whole time. A form, A minor. If you know the A minor chords, you can play those too. I'm just gonna keep it simple right now. Like for example, later on, we'll do that A minor soon. What you see what I'm doing there is that I'm taking a song, so this has to be a real world example, because as much as people want to come over and listen to me run up and down scales and play chord changes, just like on one chord across a fretboard, that's really not what happens out in practical kinds of situations. You have to have a jam tune. Because you're going to play with buddies in the backyard. You go, hey man, let's do Cortez the Killer. It's just like 3 chords. It's E minor, D, and A minor. And the more complicated you make it in the backyard barbecue or a buddy hanging out jamming situation, it'll lose its magic very quickly, right? If you got like, you guys are getting together and like, quick, like let's, we're like 2 beers in already and it's up in the mountains and we're just jamming while we're waiting for like the barbecue to heat up, right? By the time you show them the riff or the complicated chord changes, it's time to do something else. I found that like, just keep it simple, 2, 3, 4 chord jams. And then you show your buddy the changes, and there might be like a little like lead riff that goes with it that but they're very comfortable playing the chord changes and don't need to spend the next 45 minutes at school learning the riff so that you guys can jam together. It's just easier, like here's a set of chord changes, it's E minor, D, and A minor. If you get lost, it's very easy for you to get back on because I'll show you where we are, and it's this layer loops. There's a reason why the Grateful Dead Fish, Leftover Salmon, CSNY, all the Eagles, all those bands are very successful live is because, they can jam for 20 minutes on the song and it's not the same thing every single night, right? They all made careers off of it. Anyway, so what I'd like you to do is be able to switch from in Cortez the Killer, if you're feeling comfortable with D across the fretboard, is do your changes across. So be like do E minor and then another version of D, E minor, another version of D, then A minor, E minor, another version of D, and then A minor, and just be able to switch like that right there. What we need to start doing, because we're going to run into it, here's what's going to happen. You're going to go, great, Doug, I can do that now. And then I go, okay, we can do one of two things. We can go into minor caged and talk about minor caged. Or what we want to do probably is if you want to get better at a more practical use of the cage chords, we need to learn some music theory. Right? You need to know your musical alphabet, which you probably already know. I think I quizzed you on it. You're going to need to know how to spell a major scale. And if you learn how to spell a major scale, that's going to teach us how to, first off, know the notes across the fretboard in whatever key we're playing. So it reduces all of our guessing and hunting and pecking and guesswork on the guitar. It'll help us know what chord tones are, what notes to aim for, targeting notes. And it'll allow us to do what are called inversions and understand what we're actually doing, not just mimicking back to me. So if that's a game that you want to, if that's a road you want to go down, it's very useful. It's not overly complicated. You do need to memorize a couple of facts, but if you can remember a phone number, that's a good way of putting it. If you can remember your phone number, you can do basic music theory. right? It's just a pattern, whole, whole, half, whole, 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 half. If you break it up like a phone number, it's easy to remember, but we'll talk more about that next time. So this week, what I'd like to see from you, oh, I'll finish up your other question too, I can get another one for me, is I'd like you to go through and do the D-Caged with Cortez the Killer. I'll send you the backtrack. As far as the other question with the 3 in the 4 note sequence, this will be very useful for Cortez the Killer actually, because it's an E minor jam. And what that looks like here, I'm gonna go 3 notes, 1, 2, 3. I'm gonna go back a note, 1, 2, 3, 4. Gonna go back a note, 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm gonna go back a note, 1, 2, 3. Gonna go back a note, 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm gonna go back a note, 1, 2, 3. See what I did there? 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4. Go back a note, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4. If I put Cortez on, I'll go fast, so don't forget to keep up with me. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. There's any number of ways you can do this pattern. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4. Right? So it's just switching between 1, 2, 3, go back a note, 1, 2, 3, 4, go back a note, and just continues that pattern up and down the fretboard. Cool, man. Work on those concepts for me, and if any other questions pop up during the week, send them on my way. If not, I will see you on Friday. Take care.